No, we're on. All right, welcome to Retro Bar Podcast 16,
Wow.
I think.
3 minutes
Ooh.
early.
We're a little early, but I have a feeling an hour ain't going to be enough. So we're going to get started earlier. Our guest today is local realtor Andrea Keith, but we're not talking nothing about houses this morning. Do not adjust your screen. All right, topic, and at least to start out with, is transhumanism. And before anybody gets bent out of shape, it has nothing to do with gender, nothing like that. We're not totally beyond that, way deeper than that. Okay.
You already got us censored off YouTube.
Yeah.
Just then.
Yeah.
All right. Basically, as far as I did a little research, transhumanism is using science and technology to better human life to some point. And I guess the big debate is, at what point is it moral, ethical? Are you no longer a human at some point? So go ahead,
Wow,
give us a little bit of your
yeah,
background
very
or
interesting.
your interest in this, or
Well, I mean, I guess I kind of knew about it for a while, but I never really looked into it. And I like to listen to podcasts. So, I actually listened to your guys' podcast on 16 weeks ago, not thinking I would be
You're in
on
a-
here in
you're in
16
a,
weeks.
You're in a small and elite club.
Yeah.
I was actually doing a drywall project in my attic, and I was like passing the time, and I listen to Sam Tripoli's podcast a lot. He has a few different podcasts, but they're always talking about unique topics, and some of it's conspiracy, some of it's just different ideas that are out there in
Right.
the world, different spiritual philosophies, all that stuff. So there was this one on the transhumanist party, which is actually a political party, which I did not know.
I didn't until I listened to the little podcast you sent me the other day.
Yeah.
That the guy is running under the transhumanist party.
Yeah. I
which-
didn't even know there was such a
No, I didn't either.
they had a platform.
No.
Yeah, you never see them on the debates. They never invite them.
I don't think he was on the ballot in every state.
No, but he did. He also said he ran for some seat in California under libertarian,
Mhm.
which I'm a registered libertarian.
Actually, a lot of people who advocate for the transhumanist philosophy are libertarians because they do believe in personal freedom, but
Right.
I think that leads to, I don't know, I think the philosophy in itself can lead to taking away our freedoms eventually.
Well, I think eventually I think if it goes to the end of its potential, we're not even human anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it will be. And I thought about that this morning. Like, at what point? Okay, so you get an artificial eye, a bionic eye. You're still human, but you can see a lot better.
Mhm.
Or you get like Elon Musk's neural link, which I think the reason that they state they're looking into this is to help paraplegics be able to move. And so that's a great thing. I mean, if you can get a little chip in your head that rewires your brain and you think about moving your arm that you couldn't move for years and it actually moves, that's like great. But at what point does that little, like, do you get another chip then to do something else? At what
Or they
point?
keep adding to the chip that you already
Right.
have. It's like
And-
hooked
and-
up to the cloud.
Right. So what point, like, okay, I get this chip in my head and now I can move my arms and that's great. And then somebody else wants a chip. And eventually, well, the whole aspect of that is the chip, if you're paraplegic, should be able to allow you to type on a computer, control a virtual mouse, whatever.
And also, like, if you do the Neuralink one, it's supposed to actually give that artificial limb the sensation of touch. It's not even that you're just controlling it. You're
Right.
actually feeling it as if it were your own body.
Right. So okay, now I can control that. And let's say you also got a Neuralink. Eventually there will be, I mean, whether it's good or bad, but there would be where I can communicate to you without ever speaking.
Yeah.
And then at that point, what if you don't want me to know what you're thinking? And I'm going to get, and let's say we're in a room of 100 people and we all have neural links that can, are you all of a sudden bombarded by 100 people's thoughts at one time?
Yeah.
How do you pick and choose?
So when you listen to that
I'm
podcast,
scared.
I'm being very quiet. I'm just soaking all this in. I want to hear what you have to think on this.
so the guy's name is Zoltan Isfar, is the
Which his name in itself reminds
it's
you
like
of an
sci-fi,
avatar.
right?
Zoltar, seriously.
Zoltan Istar is his name. Yeah, he's a guy from California.
Or somewhere in the
Mark's
universe.
head is spinning around right now.
He's a guy from California via some other place in the universe.
He actually has a chip in his hand already.
He did say that.
Yeah. And he said that when he goes to like a party where other people have the same software, whether it's in their phone or already implanted in them, he can send them a text from this chip that's in his hand, and it can inform them of his political party. Like you can already send people things, even if it's unsolicited. Like this software can connect with this other,
Like
with the
Bluetooth
other person's
kind of.
software. Yeah,
More or less. But-
yeah. So I feel like,
What's the advantage?
how do you even have security, because things get hacked all the time? Like, how do you keep your bodily autonomy if we go to that? You know?
Yeah, at what point can somebody hack your body?
Yeah.
What's his advantage of doing that?
To spread, well, in his mind right now, it's to just give people information about his political party and what their
Okay.
goals are.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
I mean, that's what he said on the podcast. I don't know what
Mhm.
else he does with it. It was very short, that part of it, but
And at what point, like, okay, let's say you get an implant, and that implant like allows you to basically see without your eyes as though you were holding a phone in front of you.
mhm.
So now all of a sudden you have all the advantages of a phone, except you don't have to remember where it is and did you leave it lay somewhere, because it's in your hand.
Yeah.
Like, and you could call somebody up just by thinking of their phone number. You wouldn't even probably have to call them up if you don't like the old style. Was it Nextel or whatever that you could just push a button and talk to somebody else on your number or whatever, like a walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even need to call them. You just
Yeah.
think about it, and then you'd be communicating.
So what's the excuse then when you don't answer the phone? That's it.
Can you not answer the phone? Like,
Well,
I don't know. I called my
It
wife
just
and she
keeps-
said, "Well, I didn't hear it."
It just
ringing."
keeps
I'm like,
ringing in your
"Wow."
head. It
Or
just-
you don't want to answer the phone.
well, I don't think you have a
Well,
choice. I think at that point, if somebody wants to say, "Hey, Paul, get your ass home," you're not gonna have a choice whether you want to hear it or not. You're just gonna hear it.
Wow.
like, can I turn my phone off with my brain? Like, I
Well,
turned
can
my
you-
ringer off before
can
I
you-
came in here,
can
right?
you
Like, can I
turn-
do that
but
with
can you
my brain
turn-
and my
yes.
brain?
Would you be able to turn a part of the neural link off and leave the other part
Yeah.
functioning?
I would assume so, but I also, have you ever just had like a thought running through your head and you can't stop it? It's like worry, or you're excited about something or whatever, and you just can't stop thinking about it. Like, I don't know how much power our brains are going to have over this, or how much power it's going to have over our brains, like going both ways.
Eventually, it will be your brain.
Yeah.
Which,
But then when do you lose
well-
your actual consciousness?
Well, actually, that was the other thing that I thought about this morning. At what point? Okay, now I get a bionic arm. I get an artificial arm because my arm got hacked off, and then I get a replacement leg that has the ability to feel and move by my thoughts, and then I get an eye, and now I got this link. At what point of all this artificial stuff, maybe I get an artificial heart, at what point do you no longer exist as a human, but are simply an advanced machine running on computer program? And when that happens, because at some point it would, I mean,
Mhm.
along that line, at what point, if we indeed have a soul, does our soul leave our body
Right.
and go to wherever a soul goes?
Yeah.
And then at that point, you are no longer a human; you're a machine.
Yeah. So the whole philosophy behind this, transhumanist philosophy wants to abolish religion. they don't see a point for it because everything is based in scientism. Like everything has to be rational, everything has to be proven by an experiment. And so they say once we get all this figured out, you won't need any kind of other philosophy anymore. And they say, you know, when we lose the ability to become sure of something, because we find security in the things that we're sure of, right? Well, we can let all that go. But I'm like, that's exactly what that is. I'm not sure of anything, so I'm sure that I'm not sure of anything.
Yeah, well, that's what I was just going to say. What exactly in today's world can you be sure of?
Yeah,
100% sure of.
But that's where faith comes in, and you know, they actually say faith is for the weak, the psychologically weak. Like that's one of their essays by Max Moore. He wrote an essay on transhumanism back decades ago, I think in the 1990, and you know, it's just basically there to coddle us from accepting what's real and tangible.
Well, and it's faith. I always enjoyed that little saying. I forget who came up with it and what its technical name is, but it was like a four statement thing. If I believe in God and God exists, it's a win-win. If I believe in God and he doesn't, I'm no worse off than I am now. If I don't believe in him and he does exist, I'm up shit's creek. And I forget what the fourth one is, but basically there's no, I mean, you put your faith in that because if it is real, it would be good to be on the side of that real.
Err on the side of caution.
Right. Yeah. Safe than sorry kind of thing.
Exactly. And I guess like we're all spiritual beings. You know, I believe we are. I'm a Christian. I believe we were made in the image of God. And, you know, we have a special connection that no other species on this planet does. And so when we destroy that, which I don't think we can destroy it. Like, I personally believe that this will never work because you can't destroy your spirituality.
If it works, the human race is done.
Right. And they will say that, like, you know, biology has to disappear and we're going to merge with machines.
But AI will take over.
We're not human.
Because so eventually, like AI has no reason to keep us around.
Yeah.
And when AI can recreate itself without human intervention, they can just, and then we get reduced to, I'm going to say, apes or less. And then they're going to control everything. And they'll be, the thing is also with this, like in the steps getting to that point, at what point do you no longer need to sleep? At what point do you no longer need to eat? You can work 24/7.
Yeah.
And you don't care if you get paid because you don't need to eat.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just going to be a bunch of little computers all over, like communicating with each other. And like, have you heard of that show Black Mirror? Did you?
I didn't get to look at
so basically there's this episode called White Christmas, and it's kind of like, I guess, I watched it quite a while back, but it's kind of like in a post-apocalyptic world. But he used to work for a company where people could hook their consciousness up to a computer, and so they bodily didn't exist anymore, but their conscience existed forever. And then it just became like pure torture.
Well, and if
what became pure?
For them, like they couldn't die because their mind was like in the computer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so like they were stuck forever.
Yeah, because they're. I mean, basically their soul is somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess technically, if you believe what we believe, and I think we all three believe this, that your soul will go somewhere.
Right.
Good, bad, indifferent. But something's going to exist, and you're going to know, you're going to feel something, you're going to be able to do something, you're not going to have a body. And if at the point, and in my little printout here, there was a little thing about it, when it gets to the point where you can upload your consciousness to the cloud, then, and I forget what I was getting at with this. But anyway,
we were talking about not dying.
Right. Like so now, but your body is eventually going to die, whether you upload your consciousness, and at that point, when you upload your consciousness to the cloud, and everybody else does.
Mhm.
And there is all the information that pretty much basically ever existed. Does that cloud then turn into what, and I don't know if you ever heard of this, but the Akashic record, the book of knowledge that supposedly there were certain humans, Tesla, maybe Einstein, that had the ability to view the Akashic records, which gave them their knowledge because they were able to see everything that ever happened or will happen in the Akashic record.
Right.
Was that the cloud? Is that what the cloud is going to become?
Maybe.
I mean, that's,
I don't know. I go ahead. No, you haven't talked.
do you need a drink, Paul? Do you need a drink?
I need a beer. No. So where is your line? I'd like to hear what you think. Where is your line at? So
I don't
if
want
you,
any of this.
No,
like,
like, so what if your fingers don't work, or you couldn't do something that you really wanted to do? Where is your? What would you?
In your own personal
Yeah,
beliefs,
like what
where
do you
would
think? Like, okay, I'll do that. Well, glasses.
yeah.
Okay, so that's not an implant, but it's an improvement. Okay, it's something that you've chosen to put on
to improve your life.
To improve, yeah, that you can
Yeah.
see. So, okay, well, I'll accept glasses and I'll accept this, but I won't. This is as far as is there any line that you think that you wouldn't?
Yeah, I guess if it came to be something that they could actually program and control, that
Like-
if I get implanted with a chip that someone else can control what it does, like could they stop my heart? Could they stop my electric vehicle?
Well, they could do that
if they want to do,
I mean,
or
well,
can
they
they
could.
freeze my bank account? Like, so anything that could leave me lacking control
Mhm.
over any important aspect of my life, then
that happened long ago.
yeah. I mean, with our phones, we already have that with our phones, but it's just not it's not internal yet. But
No,
we have wearable devices now. We're moving toward it.
Right.
We're just like one step
but
closer
it's
gets us more
external
comfortable
instead
with
of
it.
So
But like glasses, if I had to get like a pacemaker, like something
Yeah.
like that, and I don't know how pacemakers work. Like I'm sure they're much more advanced than.
Yeah, you can call in.
Well, and they
do.
can monitor it.
Yeah, they do.
So if they
Yeah.
can monitor, can they shut it off?
Yeah,
I bet.
I don't know.
Well, I bet too they can.
Do you remember when he was talking about Dick Cheney had a Bluetooth pacemaker and he'd have to shut the Bluetooth off sometimes?
I must.
He
was that
he
near
brought
the
it
end?
up in
Or,
I was like
I
about
was in and
probably
out,
like
but-
35 minutes in
okay.
or something. I don't remember. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it was already computerized.
So what do you think is in my small world? Flying cars. I think there will be drone cars within the next 5 years. Okay, and that's not exactly what we're here to talk about, but that like I could put a timeline on that, and I believe in 5 years there will be some type of flying cars. In 10 years, there probably won't be a whole lot of regular cars around because you won't even be driving this vehicle in the air. It will be computerized, and it will take you. It'd be like an Uber with no driver.
Right.
And it will take you, and it won't crash because it can sense other winds, and it would take you from straight line to where you wanted to go. So I can put a timeline on that in my mind. In 10 years, I could see that. Might be a little off, but yeah, they're saying in 5 years we're gonna have. So what do you have a timeline? Did you think that?
They say that by 2040 that AI is going to equal that of humans.
Do you know what the term? Do you know what the term is when
And then it's
AI
also
can recreate itself?
Mm.
Singularity.
Yeah, I actually yes. And then we're going to be like they
is
want
the
to
end.
add us all to the cloud. They want us to have a collective consciousness that we're all just hooked up to this computer. So these guys say they're libertarian and they want personal autonomy, but then this is what your end game is.
Aren't we supposedly, if we didn't worry so much about me, isn't God and religion supposed to equal that? We're all one in a consciousness, like, but I think when we get put into human, like when we leave our body as a soul, we go back into whatever realm that is. And then we are probably a collective consciousness, one with God, all one. So it's only when we're here on earth fighting with each other that probably gets disrupted.
I think that, so my personal Christian belief is that the more that you nurture your relationship with God, you can achieve that here, and I mean, there are monks and
Right,
things in
yeah,
the world
yeah.
that have, like,
Right.
they have such a connection with God. They've done like supernatural things,
Right,
like
right.
amazing
Yeah.
miracles and things like that. So I think that they're trying, like transhumanists are trying to achieve this with a machine, but
But it's never going to equate it. A machine, no matter how advanced it is, and whether you're all in the cloud, will not, in my mind, ever equate to your own soul.
right.
It
You
it,
can't.
it will all eventually be monotonous. It'll all be the same thing.
But that's why they have to get rid of spirituality in their philosophy.
Well, and in my mind, and I'm not anti-religion, but in my mind, religion, whatever religion it is, the term religion, to me, I think religions were invented for control. It gave somebody the opportunity to put a set of rules in front of people and saying, okay, if you don't follow this, you're going to hell. It was an easy way to play on somebody's fear of the afterlife and to control them. Like in my mind, there's a whole big difference between religion and spirituality. Um, so religion in itself, I mean, there's all these different religious types, even Christians. There's Amish, Mennonite, and they all have their own beliefs.
There's like 30,000
and
different.
right, and they all have their own
denominations of
beliefs,
Christianity.
but their beliefs are just a set of rules that each little group says, if you don't follow these, you're not going to heaven. So out of them 30,000 groups, if only one of those groups is right with their set of rules, heaven ain't going to have a whole lot of people in it.
I think that man is fallible.
Well, we are. That's what being human
did
is.
anybody put together the right set of rules? Like,
No.
no. I mean, but I personally believe that God's word is true, and so there's
also believe
infallibility in that, and
because humans
but
wrote it.
eventually that's where faith comes in. Like, okay, this is what I've chosen to go with, and I'm at peace with that.
Well,
For
and
me,
that's the whole key.
I mean, I've had a lot of doubt along the way in my spiritual life, and probably more like since 2020, just everything that happened. But like at the end of the day, I feel like it's made me more solid in that, this is the path that I've chosen. It's the one that I believe is true. And, I obviously would like everybody to believe the way I do, but that's why God gave us free will. And
right.
I think that, the spiritual aspect of all of this, like, I believe that there's also evil. There's Satan, and he hates that we have free will. He hates that we have a spiritual connection to God. And so this is like sinister to me. Like,
well, and I think much like I think the internet, it's a great tool. You can find out you can use it for a lot of good. But I think the underlying purpose of the internet, when it was first allowed for all of us to be able to use it for free, was sinister, in order to maybe subliminally throw us messages. And it does, because if you go on your phone and look at something, it'll appear on your Facebook timeline as an ad. Yeah. I mean, it tries to manipulate.
It's AI at work.
And yeah, so yes, I think eventually this probably is somewhat sinister in nature, even though it is being sold as a benefit to live longer, live healthier, and at the end of the day, is there going to be a couple elitists, still human, that now control armies of these kind of AIs? And that's, they all of a sudden are however many there is, 1, 6, 10,
yeah,
control
I totally
everything.
Think there could be that. Like, and also, he makes it very clear, like a lot of these writers even make it clear, I've read it more than once, that you're going to only be able to achieve in transhumanism what you can afford. So the rich are obviously going to have the advantage. He's like, it's going to put certain people at a less competitive advantage when it comes to getting certain jobs and things like that because they can't afford the upgrade.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So you had mentioned that, your belief is God created us in his image. Now, I've debated in my own head, amongst many other things, when that statement is made, do you believe he created our physical human body in his image, or our soul in his image that just happens to occupy this body temporarily?
Well, I mean, I'm not a theologian, so please do
No,
not.
no, but
And
in your mind,
yeah.
I'm not either.
There's people that are way smarter than me that can answer
Well,
this
but
question.
are they? I mean, again, everybody that's
as a
telling us
Christian,
this
I
stuff
believe
is a
that
human.
Jesus is God and he came down to earth in bodily form.
Well, and-
so Jesus, Jesus was God in human form. So
in
yeah,
human form.
our body, I think
we're
our whole
part of
being
God
is
in
made in
human
God's
form.
image. I can't answer how that is. I think it's
Well, no, I
a
don't.
really deep question.
But I guess, okay, say our soul is created in God's image. Does our soul reside in the boundaries of our body, or does our soul exist outside our body? And our body is just like something that reacts to that soul from outside intervention.
I mean, the soul's a part of you that lives forever.
I thought I saw you outside my house this morning.
No, you wouldn't see anything. But you know what I'm saying? Like our soul
He's really spiritually advanced.
Is your soul, is the limit of my soul as I'm here on earth my skin? Like that's where my soul is. Or is my soul somewhere in a realm with your soul and his soul? But the only job my soul currently has is to affect the physical part of me walking around on earth. And then when the physical part of me dies, that soul is still where it was all along.
Yeah. I mean, I think our soul resides within our body, and when we die, our soul leaves our body and goes back to God.
So and then do you believe at that point it stays there? Or do you believe
that's just
at that
based
point,
on what my rudimentary knowledge of what I've heard, and
everything that I am now spewing out, I read nowhere. This is just stuff that goes on in my head.
This is what you said would happen.
Yes.
So when your soul leaves your physical body and goes back to God, does it stay there forever? Or does it have another mission?
I think if you go to heaven, it's with God in heaven. It's in
do you think there's
I think that being absent from God would be hell. Because you're absent from your creator, you're absent from the one that gave you life. So being with God in eternity is heaven. And no one knows what that is.
right, because nobody,
as Christians, we say that our body is going to be resurrected. So at the last day. So, maybe we'll use our bodies again in the afterlife.
But I thought then you have a perfect body.
Well, maybe it is perfected.
These three bodies.
Yeah. I mean, I want it to be perfected. And
I guess what I was getting with that soul thing, if your soul, like before you were born, where was your soul?
Yeah, did it exist forever? I mean, God knew you,
and
before
then it just
he made you,
got assigned.
I believe God
it got assigned your body to learn a lesson in the world of souls, and it's trying to almost like your soul would be using you as a physical body as a Sim City kind of thing. How do you react to this? And all that is happening externally rather than from internally. It's still your soul. It's just not 5'10" and 190 pounds. It's everywhere, but its only focus while you're here on earth is this body. When this body dies, does that soul then take over another body or go somewhere else to some other realm we don't even know about and do something else to learn another lesson? And I guess with this transhumanism, if that's the case, and when we appeared on earth, whether it would have been from some greater force monkeying with a monkey's DNA to create us, to skip them missing links and go right from this to this, DNA wise. Would that have been at that point in time, would have that been transhumanism, but instead of a human to a machine, it was from an ape to a human, making an ape's life way better than it used to be, because
So
now
you're
we can talk
saying-
and now we can do things.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't believe in evolution, but you're
No, I'm
saying
not
from
saying
an
that,
evolutionary
no, I'm-
perspective is like that just the next thing? Like,
No, I'm just saying from some outside source on Earth, we went from, and I'm not calling it evolution because it wasn't long over time. It was a pretty short period of time from when an ape could walk upright till we became like we are now in the whole scope of the history of the universe. Much like in the last 50 years, technology went from
well, I mean, they
rudimentary
say
to what it
that,
is.
yeah, they say that the next, like I said, the next step in our evolution is becoming machine. So how is this, like, how is what they believe not a religion too? Because they still want to keep the consciousness alive forever. I mean,
They being the people in control.
Anybody that subscribes to this
Because
philosophy,
once you become a
and this is their dream
machine,
philosophy, you know?
as long as there's somebody somewhere able to control these machines or tell them what to do and how to do it, it's those that are doing that are going to be in control.
Yeah.
Yes, say that again. What you said
About about this being a religion for them. So, if most religious philosophies believe that the soul goes on to something, you know, whether it's Buddhism or Hinduism or Christianity or whatever. So these guys want to do away with religion, but how is this philosophy not a religion? Because they want to keep the soul alive. Their ultimate goal is to achieve immortality. So,
but see, their immortality is not your soul. It's a computer program stored in the cloud.
but it's still your mind and your consciousness. And nobody
See,
knows.
I think they could dump everything in your mind, in your human brain. I think they could eventually dump all that that you have in your head into something. But that in itself is only the earthly knowledge that you gained during your life.
Right.
It is not what exists beyond this life. So it's not really your soul, because your soul is way more than what's in your head.
Right.
We know this much about where that soul is and what it's doing.
Well, and I think that they maybe don't even, I don't know this for sure, but maybe don't even believe in a soul. Like, it's just your brain. It's the information in your brain that they want to
they
keep
look at
forever.
your brain as a machine.
Yeah.
Not
it's just
as
as a USB drive or something.
Right, yeah,
Just upload
right.
with everybody else's. But yeah, and one thing that I also learned, and I don't know if you heard this part, but like they're going to be able to take knowledge from other people. So like if somebody knew, you know, how to play piano, was like a concert pianist, you could actually download their ability
into
to play
everybody,
piano.
and then everybody would
everybody's
be
a concert pianist. It's like,
so you lose your individuality.
Yeah.
And you're going to be like, it's going to be an army of the same looking, same acting, same thinking, something.
Yeah, but you have to pay more to be a concert pianist than just an intermediate pianist. See, so
well, and are they looking at this? I mean, are there people who know, and just from very recent activity of the full disclosure of UFOs, that there is something more than just us on Earth, and it's slowly being drip feeded to us, so it's not like a big shock to our system. Is this whole thing to put together a gigantic army of AI to try and protect Earth from
what if the
what's out
UFOs
there?
are just AI?
Well, they probably are, because no, they honestly
like
probably are, because
simulation.
if that's how, like, unless they've found a wormhole or some way space time travel, they almost have to be AI, because they don't have to eat, they don't have to sleep, they live forever, so they could travel from distant worlds
Yeah.
and eventually get here because they need to carry no food. They don't need to breathe. They don't need it. As long as they have some way of creating the energy that.
Or what if they're just a creation by the elitists to like
Well, they
control us again, you know?
well to control us again or to protect.
Like what if they aren't even real, and what if it's just like like a hologram? That's what I'm trying to say.
Well,
And I mean, if we're all hooked up to the computer, they can get us to believe anything.
Well, right, and much like he was saying about electric or flying vehicles. Well, that I don't doubt what he's saying is true, but eventually, when it gets close to this point, you're not going to need a vehicle because everything you do will be virtual reality.
Mhm.
You could be sitting here in the retro bar room and say, I'm going to take a trip to Hawaii, and you just think about it, and you're going to get all the sensations, you're going to get all the visual, it's going to be like yeah. You don't have to go anywhere, and you can experience anything.
Yeah. So I have a question for you.
Already.
Well, to a
degree. I mean,
a degree, yes.
They have VR.
It's just going to be way more
retirement
advanced.
homes that they let the
I think we have some
residents
comments.
watch
I just want to see what's.
Oh yeah, it's one from Mark to tell me to run like hell. Kelly's
I'm not even sure
I
if he.
wonder what happened to Mark. I haven't seen him for a while.
I don't even know who it is making the comments.
I have a question for you. So one of the things that they want to try to do is if they can read your mind, they can supposedly predict if you're going to commit a crime. Like from a law enforcement perspective, if you get all this data that someone's going to commit a crime, like would you feel comfortable actually going after them without any proof that they're going to do it?
No, so hopefully there's intervention at that point. Why would they do it? What are they looking for? What's the problem? You know, if we're talking mass shootings, that kind of stuff, we're usually talking mental health stuff. If we're talking about, well, they're gonna rob a store because they need money or drugs or whatever the case is. So where's the intervention? Yes. So you have a team that are not cops that go out and would have that conversation and try to intervene with that. You cannot arrest somebody before a crime's committed. And you think, well, that's a bad person who's done a lot of bad stuff, and why can't you arrest him? Because we've heard a rumor that he's going to do this. Well, it's unfortunate, but until he does that, he hasn't broken the law.
Right.
Well, once he does it, then it's too late. Somebody's a victim.
Well, that's like
system.
currently our system, but like, you know, I mean, it's like your brain plays games with you, right? Like when I go through TSA, it's like, oh shoot, what if I left my pepper spray or my stun gun in my purse? You know, and I'm like, crap. And then like, what if you're thinking that and they can read your mind, but you really didn't, but then your mind starts freaking out about it. And they're like, oh, she can't go through. She's on a no-fly list now.
Well,
whatever.
Right along those same lines, what if it gets to a point where, you know, you're still pretty much human, but you got the ability to somebody to maybe control you externally. What if they just don't like you? And somebody says, oh, let's make Johnny go kill that guy, and then they'll put him away forever. Like they could take over your. It would be like you're sort of schizophrenic, but
I don't know,
but for real. Like it wouldn't just be in your head; it would be external schizophrenic.
Like hypnotized, you can't do anything you wouldn't normally do.
Well, but if you had a chip in your head,
it's kind of like hypnosis.
But except they wouldn't have to try and talk you into it; they'd just program you to go do it.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Lie detectors. You can tell when somebody's lying.
But if you're freaked out because you're getting hooked up to a lie detector, like, don't you already kind of like sabotage yourself?
Not necessarily. I mean, and that's probably why lie detectors are not reliable in court. Okay, but there's, you know, we do an interview. There's all sorts of tells when you're sitting and talking to somebody. So you say, I didn't have, you know, a taser in my purse when I went through this. When I went into the airport, well, you didn't know. Well, do you have one? And so you start a load of questions, and you react differently when you're making stuff up. Your brain is, you know, there's parts of your brain that are fact. You know, what I had for breakfast this morning. I know exactly what that is. That's not a question. What am I going to have tomorrow? Well, I might have to think about that.
Well, you can't even honestly answer that. Because
No, I mean,
Hasn't
what's
happened
my intent?
what if you wake up and you're sick? And
No, what I'm
you-
saying is, so if you're gonna if you're making something up, that's a different part of your brain. Well, your eyes will follow that. So when you're interviewing somebody, then you look at their eyes, because for a majority of people, your eyes will go a certain way when you're making stuff up.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that relates to.
Well, it doesn't have to relate.
It's not really a
We're
control
allowed
thing.
to talk about whatever we want to talk about.
It's not a control thing. It's more of an understanding of how somebody's reaction is to something. When you say you're freaking out, and they can tell that, and they would come after you before you actually even went through the line, before you violated any rules.
Yeah. I don't know. We say things are one way now, but things are changing so fast. Like even like red flag stuff and things like that. It's like you almost don't have control over anything as far as I don't know how to say this. You don't have the control of, like, if somebody thinks something about you, they can say whatever they want about you now. And like, it's with social media and everything, it's like you can't even defend yourself anymore. So
No, and like actually, I think I brought it up when we had the police officer here. With today's technology on even like a video camera or whatever, like the way you can manipulate pictures or I'm sure video, could you incriminate somebody that never did anything? Like,
do you know what a deep fake is? It's basically like they can just take what you look like and make a video of you doing something that you never did. You were never at that place, and it's so real now. It's like a video.
You can be incriminated for just about anything without ever doing ever leaving your house. And so in today's world, honestly, if I got put on a jury for some crime that I didn't see happen with my own eyes in front of me, I would have a hard time putting somebody away for a long period of time, not knowing like anything about the case other than hearsay and video and pictures. I don't
that's
know.
definitely changed the police world completely. Back then, before videos were part of any cars or body cameras or anything, you went into the judge and that person ran a red light or a stop sign. Okay, and it's basically your word against theirs. Now you can give details. They were going this fast, so they couldn't possibly have stopped. Or as an officer, you can give more details, which would help. But back then, it was pretty much when the cop said, "That's what you did it." And because there was no advantage to them on a righteous stop, there was no advantage to the cop to make stuff up.
Other than ticket money.
That doesn't right. I'm saying legitimately,
right?
Like we didn't have that here. We didn't. They were very, very, very careful with that. Like there was no.
No, but I'm just.
Quotas.
You always heard that. Oh, they gotta pull so many over at the end of the month.
Is there such a thing now?
No.
Really?
No.
That's a lie. Oh my goodness! I didn't know.
No.
Thanks for
Do the higher ups watch to see what's happening? Sure. Did anybody in my years on the job come to me and say you need to do more tickets? No.
Less donuts, more tickets.
Yeah, right. So in today's world, now you go in front of that judge or a jury, and they're like, "Well, where's the video? Where's the video? We want to see the video of this guy running the stop sign."
But the scary part is the ability to manipulate a video.
Well, and again, we talked about that before. You really can't. In today's world, you can't. You can manipulate it, but there is a digital trail that will show you that you manipulated it. You can go into the metadata.
That's true. Yeah, we did
get into
that.
The metadata will show on this time and date this was done to the picture, and this time and date. That's why when I was doing forensic photography for crime scenes, when you do a picture, don't ever
edit it.
No,
or try and make it look.
I don't care how bad. I mean, they could have. Oh, there was too much light in this picture. Don't get rid of it. You explain it. There was too much light in that picture, so I took another picture. Okay, you never got rid of a picture.
Yeah.
You never deleted one. You never changed it. You never. But
That's why Bigfoot pictures are always blurry. They don't want to manipulate them. They just take them, and
Take 'em.
Bigfoot's running, and it's blurry, but you can't manipulate it. Somebody will
Yes.
say it's fake, and
He's so fast.
well, he is.
Oh man.
He's probably not even. He's probably like not a solid form. Probably
Yeah.
like a figment.
So my conversation got all kind of off what you were here to talk about,
No,
which
No,
is it's
I mean,
interesting,
It all
but
kind of.
I just don't understand it.
So
I understand it. I just have a hard time like grasping the concept of a group of people actually getting anywhere with this. Like how
Well,
many
they will.
people? How many people does this include? Like
well, as the younger generations come up through, I can see it becoming more and more.
yeah, because they're always attached to a screen.
And-
They're already like learning to not live
I
without
mean, the
technology.
guy even
24/7.
in that podcast, that Zoltan guy mentioned that a lot of the transhumanist party members, if you will, work at Google at so they're already in the field to be able to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I look at my one son is in that field, and he's grounded very well.
Oh, I think there's really good people in.
Oh,
all
okay,
fields.
And if I brought that up to him, I think he would be looking at me with like I had two heads. Like, that's why it makes me wonder how many are actually.
But how many?
believing
But how
that-
many will it take till it's out of control?
Yeah.
Like not everybody's gonna have to subscribe to it.
I mean, what if they say eventually a government says we're going to this, and in order to buy or sell groceries or sell your product, you have to have this chip.
Wow,
And
that's a good point.
And
That's a good point.
and
Look at the whole.
That was in a
virus.
book. That was in
That
whatever
was
the
very important.
Hal Lindsey or whatever his name was book.
The late great Planet
Yeah, and that was from back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Where basically that chip is the equivalent of the mark of the beast. You're not allowed to do anything unless you have it, and it just is the more modern version of 666 on your forehead.
And who knows? That's not part of the code in it.
I mean, maybe this whole, like the whole existence of us is already known what's going to happen to us. We just have to live it out. Do we really, as much as we want to be individuals, do we really ultimately have control of our own destiny or of humanity's destiny? Or is it already preconceived somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean,
Like
I
as a
think
prophecy kind of thing.
that depends on, I think, what you believe about
Mhm.
spirituality and the existence of the soul. I mean, that's a lot of people are gonna have a lot of different answers on that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and they enjoy the thing I find enjoyable is I'm not trying to force. I don't even know what my own beliefs technically are at this point. I believe in Jesus. I believe because I think I was there a little bit when I had my spleen ruptured. I was somewhere other than on Earth, and for only that short period of time, I have never since felt the peaceful, loving. I didn't see anybody. But it was, and that's why I think on Earth I get frustrated at times because I think almost like a drug addict, I saw what that was for a little bit of time, and there's no way for me to recreate that on Earth. That feeling that I had,
Like you were outside your body.
I would like to say yes.
Okay. I've heard that from a lot of people that have had.
I did not walk around in heaven. I did not see Jesus. I did not see any other people that passed before me. I was in a space of, and I would call it white, but I don't even know. Like I can't even describe the feeling of. And I was 17 years old, and I certainly didn't want to die. But when I was in that place, I didn't really know that I wanted to come back here. Even though I wasn't interacting with anybody, it just was the most peaceful. Like I don't have words to say what it felt like, but ever since that, I certainly believe there is more than what happens here. What all that is, because I don't think I got past that one point. I'm sure there's more than just hanging out in that space, but so that's very, but I do believe there's way more than this.
I don't
And
think life would be enjoyable at all without having a belief like that, but that's me.
well, yeah, I mean, and just because that little small taste of it, it gave me the ability to, and I certainly am not sitting here saying, all right, I'm gonna commit suicide because I want to get back to that. I'm not at that
Yeah,
point.
don't do that.
No, but but it gave me a glimpse of what is beyond here, at least the first step of what's beyond here. Now, whether that's real or just in my head, I don't know, but it was very real to me for the little bit of time that happened.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, and this is a little off transhumanism, but since you're somebody here with an open mind and likes to talk about this stuff, do you believe in the fact that, let's just say that ball all of a sudden moved like a ghost? We'll call it a ghost for lack of a better term. Like, do you believe entities exist that we can't see? Okay, so do I. In fact, they might be in this room right now, and I think a lot of limitation is our human eye can only see 3% of what there is out there.
Yeah.
So they might be here with us right now. We don't know that, but you often hear people see, well, I saw a ghost and it was dressed like the Civil War. That being said, do you believe that the thing that you're seeing dressed in Civil War attire that is not a physical body, are you seeing the ghost of somebody that has passed away? Or are you looking back in time and seeing somebody the way they were when they were alive? Like you're actually looking back in time and
So
seeing.
you're saying there's not, if it's the second thing, you're saying there's not really ghosts. You're seeing like a
You have
dead,
you have stumbled into a little area that
okay.
a time warp where you're looking and you're seeing Sam fighting in the Civil War in his uniform. And I'm aside with that because if you were seeing the soul of somebody, why would they be dressed in certain garb?
Yeah, unless you're just like dressed in the clothes you die in.
Maybe
Forever.
Maybe it's your projection.
That's why your mom always said wear clean underwear because it's gonna last you forever.
Maybe that's your projection, though. Maybe it's not what they're wearing; it's what you perceive that they're wearing.
Well, that could be. I mean, it could be that you, in your own head, heard something, and you project in your mind that you saw a Civil War veteran or whatever.
I don't know.
But
I'm not likely going to find one like here in your basement, but you go down
to Gettysburg or
and now you see. And so is it something in your mind that's creating it because that's the appropriate place
it
for
could
that
be.
to
And why do some people seem more prone to seeing that kind? Like I would love to see, like White Swan used to always say, oh, last night we saw 3 ghosts in the hallway. I always wanted to see that, but I never did.
I used to work in the 3rd floor of the Mountain Springs Hotel, the new building, at night by myself till like 8:30. Nothing ever happened.
Right.
But yeah, are only certain people chosen to be able to see that kind of thing? Or
no.
The
It was
ghosts
funny
are
though.
up
Like
there.
I had to run up one night and get something, and my daughter was with me, and it was like past 9 o'clock. I was like, I'm gonna run in there, and she's waiting. She's like, I'm not going in there.
Yeah.
And so like I come out of the building, and she's in the car, and I turn, and I was like, you're never gonna believe what happened up there. And she was like, what? I was like,
Nothing. Nice. There's a whole bunch of ghosts in Ephrata, apparently, but none of them that I know have really been proven. Elizabeth at the Rotu Mill Covered Bridge in that old farmhouse was supposed to be living there. And
Elizabeth, it was a ghost named
yeah,
Elizabeth? I don't know about
she had lived in that house. Remember where the near Kmart was, Rotu Mill, there was a covered bridge there. It's now concrete. They moved the bridge. you go across the bridge to the right, there's a very small house, and the barn across the street was part of it, I believe. And Elizabeth was said to have lived there, and she died, and she's now haunting the place. And we had a crash there right before I retired, and the people ran into the bushes in front of that house. So the owner came out, and then talking to her, and I said, I gotta ask you, have you ever seen Elizabeth in all the stories? And she looked at me and laughed, and she says, no, and we've lived here 20 some years.
Wow.
Never have we seen anything like that.
I thought you were going to say the reason the car ran off the road is they swerved to avoid hitting what they thought was a person.
Yes,
that really wasn't.
It really wasn't. No. I mean, it's fun to think about it. And
Yeah.
I like to go on ghost tours, and I like scary movies, but I don't.
We went to the Zach Bagans Museum in Vegas a few weeks ago. He's the guy that does the haunted shows.
Okay.
And there was some stupid stuff there, but like there were two things that really bothered me, and one of them was they had Jack Kevorkian's van.
Okay.
And so like you go in this room. Well, first of all, they have stuff from his office. So like you go in this room, it's like this old like 70s style doctor's
Medical.
office, dingy, and they had his artwork hanging up like he was an artist. It was some of the most evil, like gross stuff I've ever seen. And then you go into the next room and there's like the van, and the like feeling of heaviness and just despair that I had like in that part of the museum was
because
bad.
he was assisted suicide.
Yeah, it was like over 200 people died in that van, they said.
But he didn't murder him. They chose to go into
Yeah,
that.
but there's like I don't believe suicide is ever the way out. So like for me, it was just like, oh, this is like a lot of
and I
a lot of negativity.
Yeah, it was just heavy. And also, I will say, they made the building like you'd get into certain rooms and they made the building like heavy.
Yeah.
Like the air was heavy, there was no ventilation, and people would pass out. And then they would show you videos of people passing out. And I'm like, oh, my husband's like, this is so set up. And then
Ryan, we need you to join in here.
He wants to be on next time. He's gonna kill me. Not really.
He can come next week. We have an opening.
Oh.
He can talk about the museum. No, and then the other part that really disturbed me was, I don't even remember Lay's name, but she was like a concert pianist, and she got really into the occult. And she had her like a room in her house where she would have all these like machines. This was back in the 70s or maybe like late or early 80s, like, and she would try to contact evil spirits, and they had recordings. They say they had recordings of what was like the last thing recorded before she died, and like I got a horrible feeling in there. So definitely, but my personal opinion is I think it's like demonic. I don't know if there's like a ghost, but I think there's angels that are God's, entities sent to protect us, and maybe that's what was helping you when you had your experience. Maybe it was your guardian angel, and you were.
I mean, I didn't see
comforted.
any being or anything, but
even the fact that you said it was like light, maybe it was just light from the being.
Well, the only thing I do other than the light that I remember is I was trying to help the nurses put me from the gurney onto the operating table because it seemed like they were having trouble getting, and all I could hear is he's in shock. And I'm not. I'll help you get on the table here.
Interesting.
No, and that's about the extent of it. I mean, I don't have some I can't write a book about it because that's the whole story. But
yeah, I think when you get a feeling like that, that's complete peace, and back to your original question,
right?
It's complete peace, and you know you're safe. Like that's God's way of saying that He's here,
right?
And then when you get those feelings, like what I did, when I saw those couple things, like there's evil there, and I think that there's just evil and good entities. Like I don't know if there's ghosts. I don't understand that stuff, but I do think there's like a dichotomy of good and evil spirits. And
so as far as suicide, I don't believe it's a way out either, but both me and you have never been laying in bed in so much pain day after day after day you can hardly take it. I'm not for suicide that my freaking dog ran away, I'm gonna kill myself. No, but but if you're laying in pain and no, it's never going to get better for days and days, and it's excruciating. Or maybe even do you like if you were in an accident, you get put on a ventilator, and somebody decides to remove that ventilator, is that suicide? Or like,
Yeah.
Well,
Like they had
and
like the
most of
DNR
time-
thing. Is that what you're saying?
Well, maybe.
I'm
but
just
then-
saying, what would be
Well,
considered
and most
suicide
of-
if you're already hooked to a machine?
Well, most of the time my understanding and my experience has been when they're going to unplug, there's no brain activity. The
Right,
only thing
right,
is the
okay.
machines are keeping the organs
The
alive.
oxygen flowing through the body.
Right,
and
for the
brain- like
harvesting
the
or
brain's
whatever they're
not
going to
functioning.
do for donations. But there is no brain activity, and they can see that the soul
Right.
is gone.
Right.
I mean,
It's in the cloud.
if
That's where it went.
so I get what you're saying, but so when you pull the plug, I mean, they're already to that point.
Right.
You're
So-
not.
So yeah, I mean, because in today's world, death is depicted by lack of brain function, where 100 years ago, death was lack of heart activity. And then they realized, well, maybe, I mean, because you still are alive for a couple minutes before your heart, but once your brain is gone, it's gone.
Right.
What did
Yeah.
you think about what he was saying about cryogenics? Because like, when they freeze you, because there are people that are frozen now.
From years ago.
It's real. And they're with the hope that this is going to work, and they can revive them, and they have to freeze the brain right away. And they, I think he said it was like in some kind of saline or something.
But like at that point, your consciousness, like, could they unthaw a body and use all these techniques and make something that moves around and walks and talks? Probably. But is it going to be that same person?
Yeah.
No.
Right. Like,
No.
I don't think it is.
No, it won't be.
Because like they're like, well, we're not sure when we freeze someone if we can preserve their memories. Like, that's a big risk.
They're doing this.
Mhm.
I didn't.
Oh, no,
know.
well,
So are they alive? when they
Actually,
do
Ted
this?
Williams. Remember Ted
they're
Williams?
alive and they
Yeah, and I don't know.
No,
How,
no, no,
I
no,
don't
they-
know how it works, but do they like put you under like you're going under anesthesia or something?
Well, no, you don't put yourself to death to be frozen. It's like they would almost like if you're going to transplant your organs,
Mhm.
You're going to be dead first, and then they're going to transplant your organs very quickly.
Yeah.
I think the same deal here is you have passed away, and you already had this arranged that, okay, when I pass away, throw me on ice and keep me there till maybe a cure for whatever
Yeah.
killed me is
Okay.
available.
This isn't a healthy person deciding.
No,
I want to
no.
go away
Well, I
for
don't
10
think-
years.
I
No,
don't-
and then
but
I
no,
got-
No.
they do that. People do choose to be frozen.
but not when they're living.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so I walk into somewhere and say, all right, I'm done with life on earth. Freeze me here and now.
No,
I
my thought was they want to
That's
come
the way
back.
I understood it when you talked about it. But
Oh, so
Well,
so
maybe
is
in
there
the
somebody like-
future. I think what they were
because
talking
if their
about is
brain is, I think what he was saying was, now don't quote me. Now I'm questioning
Well,
it.
no,
But what
no,
I
I think he did
gathered
say
from
that.
it was they're freezing them in real time, hoping that they can get their brain to work
And
the
I
way that it
think
was
that
when they froze
that
them.
was,
So they're
uh,
not. I didn't think
I
they
think
were
he
dead.
brought that up,
So,
but I don't think that's happening today.
Oh, okay.
I think it's if they
That would be weird, like-
if they perfect the bringing somebody back, that you could say without a doubt, you can freeze me now, and 30 years from now, bring me back.
Yes.
Maybe you want to do that, but I don't know why.
Well,
but maybe you want to do it.
Well,
Today, you don't want to do it
okay,
because
so-
they don't know if you can.
Yeah,
bring
like,
it
wouldn't it
back
be
or
weird
not.
coming back and like not knowing people and like how
Well,
many people had died? Like what quality of life would you really have?
Well, if you like, I want to know my great grandkids, and
Yeah.
so I want to freeze myself when I'm healthy and good, and in 30, 40 years, wake me up, and hopefully I'm.
Well, in a weird
I just-
roundabout way, it would almost be time travel.
Yes.
I mean,
Kind of, yeah.
That's weird.
But what
Yeah.
what if your grandpa decided to do that and then all of a sudden you came back? Like, I think I'd be a little bit creeped out by grandpa.
No, I think that'd be cool because think of the stories he would have from way back when he grew up.
right. That would be interesting. Plus,
books are
plus it could also be like
that's
let's
what
say,
podcasts are for.
let's say you decide to freeze yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and then 6 generations of family has come and gone, and then somebody brings you back to life, and now you're younger than your great grandson,
Yeah.
and you could say the mom of your great grandson was divorced. You could marry her and be the dad of your great grandson,
Oh my gosh,
or he would be your grandpa.
I feel like you should make a movie about this because, like, you thought about this way too much.
No, I didn't think about it till right now. Honestly, like that didn't ever enter my mind till right now.
We're at an hour.
Yeah, we are.
Well, no, before you go too far, like,
Yeah.
might as well do the full circle here,
Yeah.
right?
You could be your own dad.
No. Well, it's full circle.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Mark warn me about this. UFOs.
Yeah.
You believe that they're amongst us?
No.
So you believe that in the entirety of the universe, there is nothing else. Like, I'm not saying God don't exist and didn't put us here, but why wouldn't he put something somewhere else? Like,
This is my personal belief: is that I believe.
and you're totally
Yeah,
entitled.
like I believe he loves us so much that he created us and we're his children. And I think a lot of the stuff, like the UFO stuff is just, I think it's lies. I think it might be, spiritual enemies. You know what I mean? Like demonic.
Well, I'm not saying
that's personally right now what I believe. And it's the easiest thing for me to wrap my head around.
I'm not saying, when I say extraterrestrial, I don't necessarily mean a little green guy. It's basically anything that is not of this earth.
Well, yeah. So then you get into the spiritual realm, right?
It could,
so in that sense, we're not the only spiritual beings. But what else there is, like there's good and evil, and I don't understand.
It's all different dimensions of space and time existing as one. We're just a little part.
So Area 51 is.
I haven't really looked into it enough. Like that's
whole
extraterrestrial stuff. It's never really interested me. Like the more that I listen to things about it and stuff, I guess I do get more interested in it.
So if God, like,
I can't say.
Okay, that's fine.
If God loves us so much, like if he loves us since the flood, because he didn't love before the flood.
I don't know. I think he
And
did, but he was grieved.
So he decided to start over. At what point do we piss him off enough that he decides to start
That's
over?
what, like, okay. No, like, how many times? Are there other resets we don't know about?
Yes, by far.
I don't
Not just
think
one.
that we've been given, like, again, this is my personal belief, but I think that you and I could have an interesting discussion about this. Like, I don't think that we've been told near the history.
No, we don't.
Has really happened.
Not in the least. Yeah. But I think part of it is because, I mean, as I think some of it has been covered up. I think there's a lot of it that nobody ever knew about.
Yeah.
That,
and I mean,
that lived to tell about it.
I think we're definitely approaching some sort of cataclysmic event.
Another
is it
reset.
Another reset or is it the end? That's kind of where I'm at.
And if it's the end, it's just the end of human life on Earth. There's still stuff existing otherwhere.
Yeah. I mean, I guess in Christianity, it's just God coming back and ending it and then taking us to be with him. I don't know. That to me in my mind, like I said, that's the end for me of this. Or is the world going to go through another cataclysmic event where like a few humans live and then we start again and we're better off at the beginning and then we get to like what we're at now.
So at the last reset, you believe a few humans survived or there was nothing?
I'm just referring to like Noah and the flood. Like almost every culture has a flood story.
Let's go back to Adam and Eve. Prior to them, was there a reset? And then they were.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
It's Mark.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, it's Mark. Thank you, Mark. And yes,
All right,
you
well,
are
we,
right.
we probably ought to
I feel like we could
but
do
but
like
you, as
50
we tell
more
every
podcasts
guest,
on this.
we can almost, if you didn't have a real job, we could just have a weekly podcast on this.
Well,
Although Paul would like
no, we
different
can still
subjects.
do a
Yeah.
podcast.
But no, as we tell every guest, you are not limited to one appearance
All
on
right.
this show.
Yeah, and
Well,
thanks
we'll
for
see.
coming
Maybe
in.
we creeped everybody out. Maybe
No,
like, don't
I-
bring her back.
It's good. I learned
And,
a lot.
and I am not like anything that spews out of my mind. I am not trying to force on anybody to
Yeah.
believe because I myself don't. It's just shit I think about.
Well,
Like I
and
don't
that's how I
believe
am.
it.
Like,
I
I'm
just
not.
think about it.
I am not an expert on this. I have zero authority on any of this
Yeah,
stuff.
neither
Like,
do I.
I just think it's fun to talk about.
Yeah.
So
It is.
I was just
And
like,
it- and it's
okay, I'll
fun-
be on your podcast.
Well, and it's fun to have somebody who isn't freaked out about talking about it. Like,
No.
you know, I if I go down to Black Forest today and try to talk about the same shit we just talked about now, odds are I'm going to sit there and try and talk for a couple minutes, and then I'm just going to go back to our normal conversation because people are going to move to the other side of the
Oh,
bar.
that's funny.
And,
So thank you for getting this out of him for today. So
well, I don't know.
Yeah.
She might have just primed me for that.
Oh, no.
Maybe we should start a second podcast.
Like a whole, yeah. This would be this, and then ours could be called the Otherworldly Podcast.
Yeah.
Something.
Well,
Where,
we should get guests on if we're gonna do that because it would be super fun to have like
I'm more
actual
than-
experts in things
Oh,
and ask
yeah.
them
but
questions.
how do you become an expert?
I don't know.
All righty,
guess.
people.
Yeah.
You can now adjust your TV screen.
Yeah.
Thanks
We're
for
going to
having
call it a week, and we'll see you next Friday. We have no guests lined up at this point at any Friday beyond now.
Yeah. Okay.
So anybody that's out there, to be a guest, it's very easy. You say, "I want to be on your show,"
Yeah.
and that's it. So we'll see you next week, whether it's just me and Paul or we have somebody with us.